Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Wednesday. It's March 12th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And you can see we rallied out of there again. And we really had a range day today. The range was kind of in the middle of the total lows and total highs. You'll see if we as we flip over. But it looked like we might rally out of here today, and you can see we closed higher today, but this is certainly not rejection, and prices rallying out of here for sure. So it's just a range type day, mixed trading day. So let's flip over to the other chart and you can take a look at what I'm talking about. As you can see, we had the overnight rally. At 7:30, we had some CPI news that shot the market up, and really within, I would say, an hour, we'd taken it all back. Then we just kind of chopped around before we headed lower. And it looked like we had a bigger range here, but I think there's a tighter range, and we had a failed breakout near the highs and a failed breakout near the lows, because most of your support was along here and most of your resistance was along here. So that's the way I played it today. There was a trend down and then a couple of other trends moving down here as well. A nice trend back up into the range, and then we just went from side to side. And it's amazing how many with trend second entries there were today. Um, it was a fairly decent trading day, and I actually had somebody else send me an email talking about what a difference today was and how much easier it was. So I'm not totally surprised to hear that, because there were a lot of easy second entries with the trend, and that's what makes it really easy to trade when you get a good trend and lots of second entries at the key entry point. But let's zoom on in here and talk about these trades. You can see the early trend up here, and we had a break right before the news, and then it shot straight up. And within a few minutes, really by we'd taken most of it back within 15 minutes or so, but it took a few more minutes. Maybe by 7:44, we had kind of reset. So um, 15 minutes maybe to take it all back, and then we kind of went sideways from there before we turned down again. So we had this rocket up, and then we had a spike and channel down. And I think you could start trading in here about 5 minutes after the news was done. I don't really see anything in here I like until you get this correction. Close outside, move to a new high. That one is tempting. Um, you could have traded that on the engulfing bar. I wouldn't go short right there into those three attempts to go lower. But if you traded that on the engulfing bar, because that is all bullish, it broke higher and then turned down. I'm pretty sure it broke higher. Let me just verify that before I 56.50. Yeah, it did break higher. 45.75, and this one's 45.50. So yeah, it broke higher, failed, turned down. So when it went beside that, you could trade that as an engulfing bar. And then you had a lower high here, which was the better trade, the better entry. And you could also argue that's a triple test. And that's a pretty good move down. So there was actually a lower high here too. You could probably take it. Again, it broke higher and turned down. Now you can't trade that on the engulfing, but when it closes bearish there, you could trade that as a lower high off that triple top here. I'm gonna mark it green. It's not perfect, but you could trade that. Runs on down. Then we kind of find some support here. Actually, before we did, we're just looking for prices to retest the low on this at this point. And so notice you get a first entry, second entry, and you probably wouldn't have had this line across here at this point. It would have been higher. So you're just going short on a second entry with a nice signal bar. There's definitely a little bit of a trend up, and a close outside, move to a new high. So I like that one. Another second entry with the trend. And it doesn't quite make a new low yet, and it bounces again. And notice we're working higher, close outside, move to a new high. This was a little congested, so I'm not crazy about this. There was a second entry here, but definitely don't enter there. You do have your close outside and new high all in one bar. Just sit and see if you get a lower high, and we actually move higher here. and get a leg up. So maybe you go short there, but again, you're better off to wait on that lower high, and that comes right here. And so I like entering there. Quick, easy move, and then we're just kind of chopping sideways before we. There's actually another second entry short here, but this is your signal bar and it doesn't qualify. And then you get another trend up, close outside, move to new high, and everything closes inside that trend. That's a second entry short. After this is played out perfectly, go short right there. And then you get a lower high. I marked this one green because it's not a perfect signal bar. But I still think that closes in the lower 1/3, so I still think you could take that trade. The better entry was here. Of course, you wouldn't have got a runner here, but you would have here. And usually it's the other way around. The early bird usually gets the runner, and the guy that waits on the secondary setup usually gets left out. But we run on down, then you get a rally, close outside, attempt to go to a new high, and a second entry short right there. Again, it's a second entry short with a downtrend here. We're definitely in a downtrend. There's been no break of this trend channel. We weren't quite to the lows yet. It was really kind of hard to know where the lows were at that point. Early on, it looked like they're here. Then you move it to here. Based on this right here is the way I had it. But I think you end up moving it on down some more. But anyway, there's a second entry short there. Plenty of room to the lows. I like going short there. Bounces again. You got a trend working up. Close outside. Move to a new high and a big bearish bar again. And that's a second entry short. Now, that's a pretty big bar, but irregardless, it's a good second entry if you want to take it. Now, because it's 32 ticks, maybe you skip it. But that's the first break of this channel, so we're probably going to get a retest of the low. And sure enough, off it goes. And you don't really get another chance to enter this move down. But where does it bounce? Right off those lows again. Close outside, move to a new high, and another second entry short right off the key entry point yet again. We already had a break in a new low, but this just plays out so perfectly. I think you got to take that. It's another nice move down. And then we bounce down here. You get another break. Close outside, a couple of swings up to a new high, but you just don't get a setup there. Lower high is not any good. And then you bounce here, and you get another trend up, close outside, new high, all in one move. And that is a second entry. Notice the new low, first entry, second entry. I think you got to take it because you're looking for a retest of the low here. And you actually get another lower high here. I didn't mark that one, but you could actually enter on that one too. It's starting to look a little congested now after this bar, so maybe you only make that green. But you know, if a break below that, it's probably going to send it down for a retest. So I mean, that you could argue for that to be red, but I'll leave it green there. Then we bounce down here across these lows. Trend up, and it just turns down. You don't really get a chance to enter there. And it just, the bottom falls out of it there. Another break, and you just keep chopping to a new low, and then you get your trend up, close outside, and move to a new high. Second entry short. I mean, it's an 8-tick bar. Second entry, way away from the EMA. Doesn't get any better than that. Just go short right there and look at it go. Boom. You get a runner, and you probably, if you just catch that one trade, that's probably all you need today. But it runs down, you get a close outside, move to a new low, and you only have one leg down there. I mean, you could argue, since you've got a little more than a measured move here, that it's probably going to snap back. Again, you're better off to wait on the higher low, and you don't really get one here. Then the first entry, and then you get a triple test, and I don't think you can trade that on the engulfing bar. Just wait till it closes, and if you want to go long there, it's not a perfect setup, but it's definitely a triple test right where you're looking for a reversal. because we moved a measured move down here based on the width of this range. And off it goes. Okay, sorry I had a little interruption, but takes off right there. And then it comes back. You get another second entry here, but you don't have a break of that channel yet. Not a perfect signal bar. I don't think you can take that. And this is all just, there's a second entry here too, but it looks a little sideways. We just came off the high, although we have bounced at the midline a few times there, so it's another possibility. And this is a second entry too. Notice first entry, second entry. We're not quite back to the trend line or the EMA. You're right here where there's some possible resistance, support resistance, and it seems to be acting as resistance. So again, I would just sit tight there. I mean, it just looks really congested there. I'd just sit tight. And nothing here. And then suddenly you get a correction. And again, it just takes off. Nothing really going on there. Makes a new high. And then you get a first entry, second entry. I mean, you could argue that's only one leg down, but after making this move up and not getting a new high here, I mean, there's a move down there. It just didn't have but 2 bars. So does it look like a leg down? Maybe, because you're not getting very big corrections here anyway. So I feel like you can count that as a second entry, and it's got a good signal bar, so I like that one. It's close to being red, but just because it's a little bit of sideways here too, I'm gonna leave it green. Another second entry right here, but no signal bar. Another second entry here, but no setup. And notice you had your close outside way over here, and it just keeps kind of going. So you might go ahead and draw your other trend line and let that play out before you look to go short again. And you can see there's another channel, and you do get a close outside here and a couple of swings up to a new high, and then it just sells off. And I don't think you want to go short up here. And it comes down here and you get a close outside and a new low, and it tries to go lower again and again. So you easily got a triple test there with a good signal bar. I like going long just to ride it back to the EMA, and maybe it goes back to the highs or keeps going higher. And that's a really strong move up. Close outside, new high. I don't like that setup. There's not a tradable setup there. But you do get a lower high here. It moved a good bit, but it came almost back. So I still think you can trade that as a lower high. And you're looking for a retest of the low on this as well. And again, you get a really nice move down. And another test of these lows. You actually had a test here as well, but I'd wait and see if you get another test, higher or low or whatever. And you get another one here with room back to the EMA. So I definitely like going short that, or long there. And you might even enter here. There's just not much room to those highs there, and it looks a little sideways. But this looks like a reversal when you make that high or low. So you could actually consider entering there as well. I'll make it green. And this is just first entry, first entry, first entry. And then you get a close outside. It tries to go higher. You actually get a close outside and a new high all in one bar. You might enter there being that far away from the EMA, but I'd wait on this lower high right here and you get a pretty good entry. And there's just a first entry there, and the bottom falls out again. Runs down here to the lows where you've bounced already a few times today, and then makes a higher low. It's just a first entry, but it's a higher low off this bottom here, and it just takes off again. And you kind of set your trend line here, and then it comes back here. First entry, pull back. When it breaks above that bar, it's a second entry. I like going long there. Here's another one. First entry, pull back. This doesn't make a lower low, but it does make a lower high, so a break above that is a form of a second entry. Go long right there. That's the first close outside of the trend line, so you're most likely going to retest that high, and we may be going back to the high of the range. Sure enough, it goes all the way back to the high, way away from the EMA, big bearish bar. Again, I'm going to mark that green, but you could almost argue for that to be red. I'll just tell you, I like that setup. But again, you're better off to wait on the lower high. That comes here, and there's not really a setup there. Just skip that. Then you get a first entry, second entry, but this is a engulfing bar. It looks real sideways. Just sit tight there. See if you get something better than that, which of course you don't. It's getting late in the day, so you got to be real careful with something like that. Bounces here, but just turns right down. Same thing here. You get a trend working up, close outside new high, and it does turn back down. But there's no setup, and this is after 2:30 anyway. So it was a much easier trading day. There's still a lot of volatility and a lot of price action there, but maybe not as bad as what we have been seeing. So we spent most of the day inside this pink range. So I'd call this a range day with failed breakouts on both sides, mostly news driven here. And then you get your equal move on the other side. I would guess those are pretty equal moves. And I mean, you can see that. Oops. It looks like it's to the tick. I can't tell. My little arrows in. We may not have quite got there. We missed it by a tick or so, but that's pretty dang close. And I may not have it just right over here, but that's close enough to say that's equal distance moves. Anybody tells you that there's no such thing as market geometry, equal moves and moves in twos and so forth, don't listen to them, because I show you this stuff all the time, almost every day. It's there. And you don't want to trade off that alone, but it helps you determine targets, and when a move is probably played out and so forth. They're not 100%, but you'll see them over and over and over, and sometimes they are to the tick more. It's uncanny how often they work to the tick, but they're not 100%. So, but anyway, there it is for today. This one's I got through this one a little quicker today, so I'm not going to beat around the bush. We've been having 40-minute chart lessons, so there it is. I wasn't the only one that thought it was easy. I mean, this was a pretty easy day here. Lots of second entries all the way down, and there were some others in here as well. But early on, this was really good trading. So I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again tomorrow. Tomorrow will be Thursday, and we'll wrap up our week. No chart lessons on Fridays. But anyway, I hope you had a good trading day. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.